This photograph was taken at Skeet. It's in the lounge area. It was on one of the weekends away that we organised with our children in the late 80s, maybe early 90s. In this photograph, there's 7 of the women, and there's one of Leslie Rabin on a bike. Leslie was always the fool guy. He's a very funny guy. If it was a rock and roll weekend, then he would have been dressed as Elvis for some of it. I am the third in coming from the right. We used to go down to Skeet maybe twice a year, a good 40 of us, the grown-ups with our children and our children's friends, who absolutely had a whale of a time because they never experienced anything like it, and used to queue to come to the next one in a floral skirt and a blue top. Saturday evening was always concert night. We all had to perform and do something. Sometimes we would do a play which Eric Levine would write, which would be... I think they had more fun rehearsing than they did actually doing the play in front of all of us. But from this photograph, this looks like we're singing a song. Every weekend would be themed. So we had a rock and roll weekend, we had a cowboy weekend, and on our cowboy weekend, Carol Levine came down on the Saturday evening. A lot of the kids that usually came were doing their O-levels, and she brought them all down. You know, they came down in a couple of cars, and they were dressed as Red Indians, and they attacked us. It was, you can imagine, they came in through the windows, the doors. It was the most hilarious thing. But everything that you think about at Skeet was hilarious. If Eric hired special clothes for us, they were very rarely dry cleaned, which we used to make him promise to have them cleaned before we had to put them on. I can remember one when we did the Roaring Twenties, and he had these, it must have been an old orchestra suits or something. They were black with big lapels, and we said, make sure that they're dry cleaned. He said, yeah, of course I will. And they came down, and when the boys put the suits on, they had stains down them, and then one of them put their hands in their pockets and pulled out a dirty hanky. So Eric obviously didn't have these suits cleaned for us before they put them on. I have to say, my girls only came a couple of times. They liked the idea of an empty house and had parties, and I knew that because when I came home the house was absolutely spotless, not the way I left it. But strangely enough, especially Anna, when she got older, was leading groups. She would take groups down to Skeet and run them the way that we ran them. I think also for my girls, all the other kids tended to know each other from school. They all lived in North London, whereas Anna and Louise were the only ones really that came from East London. In the girls, there was a few boys, but not the girls. And I just don't, I think it was a little bit difficult age, early teens. I just think it was a bit difficult for them. But for us, it was hilarious. And the night times, we used to share dorms, the girls, and they were just funny. We got into the tradition of somebody would bring down a magazine and would read a Dear Joan. She would give the answer, and we had to guess what the question was. So nobody ever had much sleep down there because we were just messing around the whole time. Very childish, but it was just great fun. I don't know how many years we did it for, to be honest. I think they'd had 1 or 2 of these weekends away. To hire the house, I think you had to have 40 people. And one of the guys rang us up and he said, look, they've done a couple of these weekends. We fancy come down with our girls. We said, yeah, absolutely, would love to do that. And that's what we did. We went down there and we just laughed. The long weekends, the bank holiday weekends, which was usually the Whitsun weekend that we went down there would be an extra day. And the extra day was normally we would go for a hike, or maybe we would go to the village green and watch the cricket. And if we did that, we would prepare a really big, as you can imagine, picnic for 40 people. And so the eggs would have to be boiled and the bread would have to be covered with margarine and however we were doing. And at one time, we were standing there cracking the hard-boiled eggs, and Leslie gave one of the guys, Tony, an egg to crack and peel. And Tony didn't realise it was actually a raw egg. And as he cracked it, of course, it went all over the place. And Leslie ran out of the room. He was absolutely hysterically laughing. But we'd all been drinking coffee, and they'd been in Pyrex mugs so you could see through to them. And Tony, as quick as anything, he got another egg and he broke it into Leslie's coffee. Anyway, Leslie came back into the room and he kept picking up his coffee to drink the coffee, and we could just see this egg at the bottom of this Pyrex mug going round and round and round. And we thought we just couldn't wait for him to drink it and just see what was going to happen. But I think he got so far and realised something was up. But it's just so many silly, childish things that we did as grown-ups with children. But it was good, and it was good, clean fun. I don't even remember that we ever had a glass of wine or anything down there. We just got down there prepared to laugh. There's a woman in this photograph. She's right at the edge on the left, and she's wearing a scarlet leggings and a top. And her and her husband, they were like a double act. She was his fall guy. He would tell the joke and she would give the answer, and then he would do the punchline. And it doesn't matter how many times he told the same joke. We all just rolled on the floor. It was just hilarious. That was Carol and Tony Silverman. Eric used to write the scripts for the shows. As I said, Leslie would be the fall guy. There is a photograph of him, and it's in this mauve caftan. And while we were preparing, we used to ring round each other, see if we've got clothes that we could borrow to dress up for the occasion. And his wife rang me up, Jenny, and she said, "Do you by any chance have a shroud?" I said, "There's a lot of things in my house." I said, "But a shroud isn't amongst them." I said, "But I do have a caftan." Anyway, I took the caftan down and he wore it. Now, this caftan was not only worn by me over the years. I bought it in my pregnancy for every time we had to go to a wedding or a social do that needed to be dressed properly. But all my friends used it during their pregnancies as well. It was probably the best 20 quid I probably ever spent. And then it ended up as Jesus Christ Superstar. You can't see the decorations, the streamers hanging down. But, of course, that would be another job that would have to be done, was that we always, because they were themed, we always dressed the room up accordingly to reflect it. It was just great times, great times.